Brooklyn Nets season preview. They have Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and they're going to be really good. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to this channel for more NBA content. I'm just kidding, of course. Well, they will be very good, and they do have those three players, but there is a bit more to it. Last season, they finished with a 48-24 record, which was good for the second seed in the East. They were first in offense and 23rd in defense, so obviously an offensive-minded team. Their defense was a little bit better towards the latter half of the season and in the playoffs, but still a team who is definitely primarily offensively focused. And in the playoffs, they won in the first round versus the Celtics in 5, had all three superstars healthy and were playing really well. But then in the second round of the Bucks against the Bucks, Harden injured his hamstring within the first minute of the game. Kyrie went down later in the series. When Harden came back, he wasn't 100%. They still managed to take the Bucks to 7, and if Kevin Durant had smaller feet, they would have won the series, but they ended up losing to the Bucks in 7. This offseason, they were pretty busy, as most contending teams are. They traded Landry Shamet for Javon Carter in the 29th pick, which I thought was a good trade. In the draft, they drafted Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe, and Cam Thomas has looked like a really good scorer. He was Summer League co-MVP. And then in free agency, they lost Spencer Dinwiddie, Jeff Green, and Mike James, as well as a few other smaller players. They signed Patty Mills primarily, but also DeAndre Bembry and James Johnson. And there still could be more signings. There's still a few free agents available, and the Nets will be in the hunt for them, as well as players in the buyout market. And they re-signed Bruce Brown and Blake Griffin and extended Kevin Durant. So overall, I thought a really solid offseason. Obviously, it's a shame they lost Dinwiddie and Jeff Green, but they just didn't have the cap space. And I thought getting Patty Mills was a really good signing. And then bringing back Bruce Brown, Blake Griffin, and extending KD, I also thought was good. If I think of a projected starting lineup, at point guard, Kyrie Irving, last season, 27 points a game, 5 rebounds and 6 assists, 50-40-90 efficiency. I mean, it's such a luxury to have him as your third option. Can be more off-ball and super efficient. Great score on all three levels. The handles, the mid-range game, the finishing at the rim, his balance and craft and shiftiness. I mean, yeah, he's a really great player, and to have him as the third option is just unfair. I mean, yeah, he's great. I mean, with the great players like the three the Nets have, I don't really know what more to say. Shooting guard, Harden. You could argue that Harden's the point guard, but really doesn't matter. Backcourt is Kyrie and Harden. He averaged 24.5 points, 11 assists, and 8.5 rebounds with the Nets, and was more of a playmaker than he was in Houston. We'll see if that trend continues into next season and further on. I think it will, because first of all, I think his passing is super great, especially in the pick and roll with bench units, but really in any situation. And he can afford to be more of a playmaker since they have Kyrie and KD, who are such great scorers. It's not like he's scoring none, though. Like, still almost 25 points a game. That's still quite a bit. And you know that, he can be the number one offensive option on a great team. And he can sustain you when Kyrie and Kevin Durant aren't playing. And yeah, Harden is great. And then KD last season averaged 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 5.5 assists, and took it to a whole nother level in the playoffs. I mean, that 49 point game he had in the Bucks series, really just the whole Bucks series, he was really taking over. His 3-ball, his mid-range, just so unguardable, such a great player. And, the only thing that can really stop him is health. So we hope, he has played a lot of basketball between playing 48 minutes in some of those playoff games and then Team USA. So you hope that they're able to manage his minutes throughout the regular season, rely on guys like Harden, rely on some of the bench guys, and he can really just be himself in the playoffs. Then Joe Harris, last season averaged 14 points a game on 47.5% from three, and he's just an absolutely great shooter. I think, he is their fourth best player in the regular season. To have another guy who is someone you need to be glued to on the perimeter because of his shooting ability, someone who doesn't need the ball and is better just off ball, spotting up, coming off screens, that sort of thing, it just takes their offense to another level. I mean, this team is just so hard to guard offensively because you have Kyrie, Harden, and KD, but then you also have great spot-up shooters like Joe Harris. I mean, the only question with him was the playoffs where he didn't play well. His three-point percentage was way down, and if he had made more shots in the Bucks series, they probably would have won that series. So you hope that maybe, it doesn't affect his confidence, and he's still a great shooter, and then when they get to the playoffs, he can keep the same level and as he does in the regular season. And then center could be Blake Griffin, could be Claxton. I'm just going to say Blake because he was the guy who was their primary center throughout the playoffs. I mean, Blake at center, I think he proved that he can be a really tough player defensively in the playoffs, taking charges, guarding Giannis to the best of his ability, just being a tough guy. And then offensively, he can shoot a little bit, he can pass, he can set screens, all that sort of thing. You just hope that they don't put too much on him defensively, and that they still have Claxton coming in, that they have better defenders off the bench like Bruce Brown, that KD and Harden lock in defensively, and that overall the Nets can be a solid defensive team, because I think Blake definitely does his part on that end and plays super hard for a guy who used to be a star player. If I talk about the bench, why not start with Claxton, who could be the starting center by the end of the year? I like Claxton, super young, super athletic, a really good defender, really switchy, still has a bit to learn and is still inexperienced, so we'll see how much they trust him. Hopefully he can get good minutes throughout the regular season and be a guy who's super bedded into their system and ready to play in the playoffs, because I think he gives them something that Blake doesn't have with his youth and athleticism and rim protection. And with him, if I think of their best defensive lineup, it's probably like him, KD, Bruce Brown, those type of guys. And, when it comes down to it, they have enough offense, and the offense is going to be there. But the question is if they can get stops, and I think Claxton could be a huge part of that. Apart from him, the bench unit, Patty Mills, player I'm a big fan of. I think it was great that they were able to sign him. Averaged 11 points a game last season and is a good shooter, but a great pick and roll player, good off ball, can come off screens, can shoot it, can play make, and I think he'll be able to move into the starting lineup when one of the big three isn't playing, and he'll be able to sustain them offensively when the big three are sitting on the bench. The Nets also have the luxury of playing one of the big three every minute throughout the regular season because they have three of them. Some other bench pieces, Bruce Brown, I thought last season did a great job of making himself important and playing a role, averaged 9 points and 5 rebounds. He's like a 6'3 center. He's willing to set screens. He can switch a bit defensively and just play super hard, and that's what you need around three superstars. They also have Cam Thomas, who, as I mentioned, was great in the Summer League. Even more scoring. I mean, this team just has so much scoring, and I think they could set the number one offensive efficiency ever. I think they did last year, so I don't see why they can't go even better, especially if they can stay healthy, just to have so many threats offensively. And last guy I mentioned, James Johnson, gives them some toughness. You sort of need a guy like that, like the enforcer, that sort of thing. So we'll see how much of a role he plays. But I think the depth, it's not great, but I think they've done well this offseason, getting Patty Mills and Cam Thomas some more offense and keeping the defense. And I think the guy who could really change it up and make an impact would be Claxton, because he gives them something they don't have. If I think of a few questions, could they trade DeAndre Jordan's $10 million a year? A trade I mentioned was maybe Derek Favors, who could be a solid center, maybe Thaddeus Young from the Spurs. They don't have many picks, but if they could change that $10 million into someone who can actually contribute for them, that could be massive. They could also get some guys in the buyout market who will help them out. I don't know who, because no one knows, but we'll see. And then obviously the big questions are defense. I've already talked about it enough. They're not going to be a great defensive team, but you just hope that in the playoffs they can get enough stops so that their offense can win them the games. The health, this is a concern. I know everyone says, like, if healthy, they're going to win the championship or whatever, but you do have to think about health, and you just hope they stay healthy. I think they're in a good position with Patty Mills and Cam Thomas to manage the minutes of the big three in the regular season, so that no one gets injured, or at least no one has played too many minutes. And then the starting center, Blake or Claxton, I think they're both good options. We'll just see who it is come playoff time. If I think of prediction, I think they'll be the number 1 seed in the East because of all the scoring and all the offense they have, and that's really important in the regular season. And in the playoffs, it's a bit too early to project, and we don't know with health or how they're looking, but I would say minimum finals. I think they're my pick to win the championship if you asked me, but a lot can change. You just hope they figure it out defensively and they're healthy. But anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to this channel for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys next time.